For years, newspapers have been a central part of our daily news intake. But what does the future hold for journalism? Will local newspapers like this be a thing of the past? The Pierhead Sessions have brought together a group of journalists from online and newspapers to discuss what the future of journalism actually is. We caught up with them afterwards to hear their thoughts. Hello Andrew, and thank you for joining us at the Pierhead Sessions today.
Hello, nice to see you.
While you were at the Daily Telegraph, you were obviously heavily involved in the MP expenses scandal. What do you think that actually tells us about the value of the media in today's society?
Well, the expenses scandal in my 30 years in journalism was without doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, the most important public interest story I've ever been involved with and probably will ever be involved with. MPs, of course, tried to distract attention from the significance of the revelations, basically that they were fiddling, they were abusing the expenses system, they were effectively, some of them, stealing taxpayers' money. They tried to divert it to a story about how the Daily Telegraph paid for stolen material. It wasn't stolen material, it was a leak in the old-fashioned sense of the word, and we paid £110,000, I should say they paid £110,000, and it was legitimate money well spent because it was in the public interest. And the extraordinary thing about the revelations was the response of the public. People say the public don't care about politics, they're turned off by the political process. There was a clamour in the country, there was fury. People were absolutely enraged the way MPs were behaving, and I can tell you my phone never stopped ringing, my email box nearly blew up. The number of responses to the Telegraph website letters page went from 1,800 a day to 3,500, it was double, and people wanted more and more and more. And I can tell you as well, some MPs were calling us up as well and saying, you thought about looking at so-and-so's expenses. So it was a great public service, and it showed that good investigative journalism was alive and kicking, because it wasn't simply a matter of just getting a file in a darkened corridor from, with all the computer references about MPs' expenses. It required painstaking research, lots of access to the land registry, which then exposed a series of themes. They were flipping properties, they were not paying capital gains tax, they were using accountants paying accountants to give them tax advice. So triumph for old-fashioned journalism, and particularly I would say for newspapers. I don't think the web, I don't think online, those revelations, which lasted for four weeks, would have been anything like as effective.
Okay, you passionately defended the role of the national newspaper in the session we've just had. Would you say that the age of the newspaper is live and kicking? Is there a reason for positive outlook?
Look, you know, I've been doing it 30 years, and they've been telling me for years that newspapers were on the way out, and actually in my lifetime they've increased. The Independent on Sunday is still with us. They were created as a direct result of Thatcher's trade union reforms back in the 80s. Now, I don't think necessarily in 5 or 10 years' time we'll have as many national newspapers, but we have the most extraordinary plurality anyway. There's no country in the world of the size of the United Kingdom that has so many national newspapers. Scotland has a national newspaper, Wales has a very dominant paper too. If we lose one or two, well then maybe that will mean more readership will be concentrated in the other titles. Still, around 9 million people a day are buying national newspapers. Average readership of a newspaper is 3 per person. That means over 25 million people are reading a newspaper every day. So I think we're in a declining market, but it's still pretty much a healthy market. And most of them, you know, they're making pretty good profits.
Okay, on the subject of readership, we've seen sort of the move towards paywalls on the internet. Do you think they're going to be a successful move?
Well, paywalls have been invented a little late in the day for my liking. Rupert Murdoch is, of course, trailing the blaze or blazing the trail. He's doing it first. He's already done it with the Wall Street Journal. Well, that's a very core specialist readership. They need to know in the Wall Street Journal. There's a lot of informed opinion about the stock market. The FT is doing it too, and the Murdoch press will do it at some point in Britain this year. And I can tell you the rest of Fleet Street is waiting for him to go first, because we don't know how it will work. My concern is the younger generation haven't paid, won't pay. They're not used to paying for news, and I don't think we're ever going to be in a position where people pay just for news stories, but I think we may be able to ring fence comment, features, listings, reviews, which you can't get just old anyway. You can get news on the BBC, that's free, but informed comment in your Daily Mail or Daily Telegraph or Times with a certain political bent or your favourite theatre critic, maybe that's how they claw some revenue back.
Okay, so from the perspective of a national newspaper, you're obviously heavily involved. How do you see the industry changing, or what further things could they do to improve?
Well, it's a constant revolution, and I'm old enough to remember when we were at hot metal and we were printers who used to put bits of metal on the page. That's how it worked, and we've gone through more and more changes, and the printers have gone, and now at the Daily Telegraph, for instance, some of the features pages are subbed in Australia because it's cheaper, because the world is so much smaller because of the internet. But what's going to happen more and more is newspapers particularly have embraced blogging. They've had to embrace the internet. We have to embrace the fact that more and more people are going to read news on their telephone, on their iPhones. So we're going to have to adapt and work with this great online revolution and not see it necessarily as opposition or an enemy, but as complementary. Now, there are still some editors who say, they can teach us nothing, but actually we've got to get with it. I mean, my own newspaper now, the Daily Mail, the editor Paul Dacre invests famously in journalism. We've got lots of star writers and columnists, and it's a writer's paper, that's why I'm there. But its website, which it invests much less in proportionately to, say, the Daily Telegraph, has far more people reading it. But it's a completely parallel universe. You read the Daily Mail website, it's all showbiz, it's all about people I've never heard of. But it drives the title, and it means we've got readers all around the world, and that brings in advertising revenue, so it's supporting and underpinning the core business, which is the newspaper.
Okay, thank you very much for talking with us today.
Pleasure, and very nice to be in Wales.
Thank you.